and the members of this foundation for inviting me. It's an honor that I don't take for granted. I'm Grace Wanunda. I'm born-again Christian. I'm based in Mombasa. I'm a mother of 2 beautiful children by adoption. And I thank God for calling me into this noble cause of adoption. Thank you so much for Alex for engaging me all through and for having me here. I'm told that this is an organization based of Christians, and I can bring the Christian perspective of adoption into our conversation. When I was called by God to adopt, as a Christian, it was not easy. I was a single lady waiting on God for a husband. I had prayed so much, and I was trusting God that I'd done everything. I was working, I had a stable job, I had a stable life, something that you would call everything was working out for me. The only thing that I was waiting for was that God would bring a husband, and then I settled down to have my family. I was very prayerful, very prayerful. And I loved my life, and I loved serving God. I used to serve God in the Department of Schools and Colleges ministry in my church. So I used to go out a lot to just minister to the children, to the young boys and girls. And that is what I thought was serving God for me. That was what God was calling me to do that time. And in my family, I'm a disciplinarian who was not very good with babies. So naletewa watoto wakifika teenage, wameanza kuingia adolescent, nenda ukakae na auntie when the schools are closed, so that you may get some discipline. From my background, okay, somebody is saying they can't hear a word. What do we do? I continue. Okay, can I continue?
Yes, I think you can continue because I can hear you. Janet, can you log out and then you log in? Okay, you can continue, Grace.
Yep. So to me, I was waiting for what next? After school, you get a good job, you're driving your car, you're living the best life. And then one day I had a dream, and I was brought up in church knowing that we cannot take for granted our dreams. So I used to take seriously every dream that I had, because I was made to believe that God speaks to us through dreams as one of the ways God uses to speak to us. So I prayed earnestly about my dreams. And every time I kept praying, God kept leading me towards something. Every time I prayed, God kept leading me towards a more clearer thing, because I could not understand my dream. But then I'm cutting this story short because I want to go into detail about adoption. So I prayed until one time God led me to Caroline Mutoko's story on Facebook. And when I saw the story, I felt like goosebumps. I started trembling. I was so shocked. And then I asked God, is there anything I can do? And I heard a voice tell me yes. But then when I went to church, it was like a Friday, I can remember. When I went to church on Sunday, my pastor was praying about how to help needy children, and they just started Wilfred Life Foundation. I go to JCC, Mombasa. So they just started Wilfred Life Foundation. So when I tried connecting my dream of seeing Caroline Mutoko with her daughter, and then with Wilfred Life Foundation helping needy children, I thought, like, could be this is what God wanted me to do, because adoption to me was not an option. No. According to me, during that time, adoption was meant to be for people who are not able to have children. Something that I've realized is stigma, not the truth. So Pastor Lai requested us to support children that were just the pioneers of the foundation. And I was the first person to the pulpit volunteering to take care of one child and be paying school fees for him. So an opportunity that I took and did faithfully. But the moment I wrote my first check to pay school fees for that young man, then I kept dreaming now, more clearly being directed to children's home and massaging the children, playing with them, and just speaking word of affirmation and greatness upon their lives. And I kept praying, God, what is it? I thought I'm doing what you wanted me to do. The more I prayed, the more I dreamt about children in the institutions and how horrible life in the institution is. So I prayed, and one day I went to salon. I'm just trying to summarize my story so that you may understand where we're coming from and how passionate I am about adoption, the reason why. So one day I went to salon in the morning, and when my salonist was making my hair, washing me to put me in the dryer, she gave me a magazine, a True Love magazine. It was 2014. Who is on the cover of the magazine? Caroline Mutoko. So I got so much shaken and I trembled so much. And I told her, no, easy stories are adoption. Mimi sizitaki. And she was like, why? Adoption is not a bad thing. It's a noble thing. You can say, no. At my age, I would rather have a child, but not adoption. And we were only two people in the salon. It was very early in the morning. And then a conversation ensued, and we talked about adoption with her. And I stood my grounds. Adoption is not an option for me. I would rather have a child, but not to adopt. And then she told me, go pray about it. If you pray about it and you feel like God is leading you to adopt, then I will connect you to a psychologist, my client, who does counseling for adoptive parents for Little Angels Network. Then iliishe, nikasema it's all right. So she puts me in dryer, and just like 5 minutes before I come out of the dryer, guess who comes to the salon? It's the psychologist. So to me, that was beyond a reasonable doubt, conviction that I've been struggling with something that God wanted me to do. I went back. I told her, she introduced me to the lady, and I didn't want to talk to the lady because I was disappointed. Very, very disappointed. Very disappointed. But in my heart, I knew this is God. It cannot be a coincidence that this lady is coming to the salon today when I've struggled with the dreams of children in a home. According to me, children that were in these children's homes were watoto wa chokora. So I was even telling my salonist, I cannot take a chokora to my home. I have served God. I have waited on God. I've gone to school. I would rather nifanye surrogacy, or I would rather nipate mtoto wangu, but I'm not going to take a child whom I don't know where he or she is coming from to bring home. But to cut the long story short, when the lady came to the salon, I got convicted. I felt like I wanted to cry. I was disappointed with God and with everybody. I went to my car, drove very fast. I didn't even go to the office that day. And I cried my heart out like 30 minutes. Then after crying, then I said, okay, God, this is no doubt what you want me to do. But if this is what you want me to do, now speak through my mother. I want to call my mother and I want to ask my mother about adoption, and whatever she says is what I will do. Because you say we respect our parents. If she says no, I will not do it. I knew my mother is not saved. I knew my mother would ask me, what's wrong with you? Si ukazae, kwani unashindwa kulea? I expected my mother to hit the roof and say, not in my family. So I called my mother and I nikachafu adoption, the stigma and the stereotypes that people say about adopted children out here. Oh, watoto wakununuliwa, watoto ambao wako na roho ya kukataliwa, watoto ambao wako na bad spirits, they are rejected, they will come and take blessings of your grandchildren and they will dominate and have control. And one day when I raise them up, they can decide to quit and go and leave me. And people will think that I'm a barren and I'm hiding in adoption. You know, those kind of rumors that you've also heard about adoption. And my mother listened, hakuongea. And when I was done, she asked me, are you done? I said, yes, I'm done. Now, you see where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a very, very, very low family. Going to school was a miracle. Actually, whoever took me to school is my stepbrother. My father, there's some noise. My father was a polygamist with 2 wives. So my mother is the second wife, and my first family were grown-ups. Actually, they were my mother's age mate. And now my stepbrother from the first family one day came home when I'd just done my class 8, and I didn't have school fees to go to school. And when I shared my story with him, then he said, I'll take you to school. And that's how I went to school. He took care of me, took me to school, paid my school fees, paid all the bills, and I never lacked even a single cent. May God bless his soul, and may his soul rest in peace. So my mother reminded me that I am a recipient of mercy. If it were not for somebody else's child, I would have not gone to school. And my mother said, Ela hawa unaita chokora, wenda ndio watakuwa wako. You can never know what God wants from you. Remember, my mother is not saved. And my mother told me, I've been a mother, I've had 9 children, and out of my children, none has helped me other than you. And you, out of the 9, who took you to school? Shem. And who is Shem to you? My stepbrother. Where on earth does a stepbrother take a stepsister to school? And you know how polygamous family are having a lot of issues. So you are one person that need to accept that kama kuna mtu Mungu amesaidia ni wewe. And then my mother told me, hakuna mtu anasaidia mtoto wa mtu ambao si wake pasipo Mungu kuingia kati. That convicted me beyond reasonable doubt. And then she also told me, remember who adopted Moses? Who adopted Moses? And I said, I don't know. You know, I was so bitter with God. So I said, I don't know, so that Aniondoke, because now she was really telling me to go do what I did not want to do and what I wanted her to say no, so that I may not do. So my mother said, Moses was adopted by Pharaoh's daughter. The Bible does not talk about her marital status. The Bible only said that Moses was adopted into Pharaoh's family, and Pharaoh's daughter raised Moses like his own until he became a deliverer of his own family. So my mother was telling me, don't worry about your marital status. Look unto God. God does not look at people's marital status. God does not look at their financial status. God looks at people's heart when he wants to give you an assignment to go and do. I cried after that conversation with my mother. 2 months down the line, my mother called me and said, did you go? I said, no, I didn't go. I'm still praying. She told me, never pray about the will of God. Because if you pray and you consult a lot about the will of God, most likely people who don't want you to do it will be used of the devil to discourage you. And today I came to tell you that God didn't bring you here in vain. Don't consult a lot about the will of God. And don't hesitate to bring a child home should you feel you are able to bring a child home. Thank you. Now let's go to adoption. What is adoption? Adoption is the transfer of parental rights from one person to another. Parental rights and responsibilities. I repeat, adoption is the transfer of parental rights and responsibilities from one person to another. And this is done by the High Court of Kenya. These parental rights of another person from one person to another can be of a relative. So adoption can be between relatives. You can adopt a child that is biologically related to you. It is allowed, and it is called kinship adoption. And you can adopt a child that is not biologically related to you, and you don't even know their biological parents at all. It is called local adoption in Kenya. I will narrow our talks to local adoption and kinship adoption foster care and legal guardianship, because that is what Kenyans are allowed to do. And international adoption has been barred, or there's a moratorium that is barring foreigners from adopting now. So if there's any foreigner amongst ourselves, my conversation might not benefit them, but this is strictly for Kenyans who are considering adoption or who just want to learn and understand what adoption is all about. So it's transfer parental rights from one person to another, can be kinship or just local adoption that is done by anybody willing to adopt a child in a CCI. A CCI means Charitable Children's Institution. And why am I advocating for adoption? I am advocating for adoption because when I brought my daughter home, you are parents. I have never been a biological parents, but I know there are parents amongst us. She was 5 months. And in that 5 months, she was only 5 kilos. And she was born at 3.3 kilos, a healthy, bouncing baby girl. The months that she stayed in a CCI, 5 months, made her deteriorate and reduce in her progress. And when she came home at 5 months, 2 months after she was matched with me, she blossomed and changed to be a bubbly, beautiful baby girl. If you go on my Facebook wall and you are my friend, look at the photos of my children, you will not believe they were from a children's home somewhere. They are beautiful and bubbly. That girl you see came home 5 kilos, 5 months. And in 2 months, she blossomed and she transferred, and I looked and said, wow, this thing is beautiful. And that's why I started an organization known as Adoption is Beautiful, because it was beautiful to see how God can use you by love to transform and change a life to be from a hopeless person to somebody that just, wow. So it touched my heart when I realized that there are so many children in the CCIs that would get families, and because of ignorance or because of stigma, we don't know. The information about adoption is so scarce. So every time I look at this girl blossoming, changing, increasing, and just becoming bubbly and beautiful as she is, I kept gaining courage to talk about my story and to share my story with whoever would like to hear. And that is how I came bold to talk about adoption, because I realized that God did not just call me for one child. And I cannot bring the whole CCI into my home. I can't afford to do that. But there's somebody out there, through my story, would be touched and would say, I can do it, because it's doable. Adoption is doable. And if we go back to the Bible, because this is a Christian organization and most of us are Christians, in Ephesians 1:5, the Bible talks about the redemption of us who are born into sin. Through the blood of Jesus Christ on the cross, we were made to be sons and daughters of God. We were made to be heirs of God. And therefore, the Bible story and the story of redemption and salvation is fully the story of adoption. We were redeemed by Jesus Christ. And I love it because even in the Bible, there are so many people that were adopted. I will share with you people in the Bible that were adopted. Who are they? Who are these people that were adopted? Pharaoh's daughter adopted Moses, Eli, and Samuel. You see, we know the story of Samuel. The mother to Samuel was a barren woman. And when she prayed that God would bless her with a son, she gave God a vow that if you give me this son, I will give him back to you. And when she gave birth to Samuel, she took it back to Eli so that Eli may raise him as his own into the servantship of God. And Samuel is one of the greatest prophets. And I see whatever the mother to Samuel did as the current mother offers, we talk about in adoption. Do you know in adoption, you are allowed to give out your child for adoption? For one reason or another, there are people who cannot take care of their children. And therefore, those people are allowed by law that they should offer those children for adoption for somebody else who is in a position to take care of them, to take care of. We'll come to that later. And then we have Mordecai and Esther, the kinship adoption that we talk about. The Bible says that Esther was an orphan being raised by her cousin Mordecai. So Mordecai raised Esther, as his own. And look at what Esther turned to be, the queen of the Israelites, and delivered her people. And then there is Joseph and Jesus. We believe in Jesus Christ as our savior. And we know very well that Joseph is not the biological dad of Jesus. But when Jesus was conceived, the Son of God, conceived by the Holy Spirit through a Virgin Mary, God spoke to Joseph and told Joseph, don't disown Mary because the pregnancy is through the Holy Spirit. And Joseph accepted her and raised Jesus until Jesus accomplished what God had ordained him to be. And then we have God and us. We call God our Father who art in heaven. And we have never doubted that we are the children of God. How are we the children of God? Because we were adopted into sonship. We are heirs. We are equal with the people of God now. So we are adopted through Jesus Christ. And again, Jacob adopted Joseph's sons. The Bible says that Jacob adopted Ephraim and Manasseh. Hello. So this thing, adoption, is all in the Bible. So that's what's giving me confidence, to be confident that being an adoptive parent is a honor and a favor by God, that God is ordaining you and is choosing you to walk with a needy child towards his or her destiny, to be that person that God ordained them to be. That's, to me, what God called me to do. Because how else can I explain that God would call me to raise a child not related to me, to become my own, to be the person that God wanted them to be? Adoption, therefore, is an honor. It's a favor. It's a gift from God. So I encourage you that if you feel that you are touched to give a child a home, feel proud about it. And that's why nobody can ever intimidate me or stigmatize me about adoption, because I know that I did qualify. I did carry them. They don't carry my DNA. They don't carry my blood, but they are mine, and nothing can stop them from being mine. And I've been honored by God to take them where God wants them to be. So that's the brief history of about adoption in the Bible. I've got notes that I will share with your leaders later. If you want notes on adoption and the Bible references on adoption, I will give those notes to your leaders and you can have them, because we cannot go deeper in the Bible. It's so fulfilling when you start reading about the stories of adoption in the Bible and how touching they are, and how the people that were adopted turned out to be men and mighty women of God that saved people. So who knows? I always believe that the devil does not fight a nobody. So therefore, these children that are in the CCI, we should not reject them. We should not condemn them. We should not feel that they are rejects. We should not feel like they are having spirit of rejection. We should understand that the devil is fighting their destinies and whoever God created them to be. And that is why we should even embrace them and walk with them, because we understand that the battle belongs to God, and therefore let them help them be whoever God destined them to be. Now we are coming back to adoption, the legal adoption process now. We have not understood the definition of adoption. Those who are joining late, transfer of parental rights from one person to another. Parental responsibilities and rights. Responsibilities and rights. Now, who can adopt in Kenya? And adoption must be done through the High Court of Kenya. It's a legal process. And kando na kuwa legal process, there is a lot of emotional roller coaster that comes with adoption. So it's a legal process. For it to be binding and for it to be legal, it has to go through the High Court of Kenya. So who is allowed to adopt in Kenya? For you to adopt in Kenya, you must be a Kenyan citizen. You must have an identity card. You must be 25 years and above, and not more than 65 years. You must be at least 21 years, either 21 years or 21 years older than the child you are adopting. You must be of sound mind. You must not have any criminal records. You will produce your certificate of good conduct to show that you've never been an offender of children's rights in any way. Haujapatikana na hatia kinyume na mtoto yoyote. You have to be clean of the clean. You got to be married or single. If you are married, you must be 3 years, at least 3 years in marriage, legally marriage, not come we stay. A marriage certificate is compulsory, is mandatory. At least 3 years in marriage, husband and wife. If you are single, you only need yourself and your ID. And I need to clarify, before, single men were allowed to adopt. Last year, the current Children's Act prohibits single men from adopting. So a single man is only allowed to adopt his relative, kinship adoption. But again, the law allows a single man to foster. I will talk about foster care also. So the law allows a single man to foster a child of same gender. So a single lady can adopt a child of her preference. Initially, during the time when I was adopting, I was only allowed to adopt a baby girl because I was a single girl when I was adopting. And therefore, allowing me to adopt a child of my same sex, a baby girl, but later I was allowed to adopt a baby boy. Why? Because the law allows a single applicant to adopt a child of the opposite gender under special circumstances. The special circumstances are, if you are single, you must have been a mother, either by adoption or biological. For example, I was a single mother by adoption, so I was allowed to adopt a boy to get a brother for my sister, for my daughter. And if you have a biological daughter or son, the law allows you to adopt a child, a boy child, in special circumstances. You are also allowed to adopt a child of a different gender if that child is 4 years and above. You are allowed also to adopt under special circumstances if that child is a child of special need. For example, you are a doctor, you are a teacher that specializes in special needs children, and there's a child in a children's home that is in your line of responsibility. You are well conversant with whatever the child needs or whatever they require, and you can take care of that child better. And you can request the High Court of Kenya to allow you to adopt that child. Even if you are a single lady who does not have a child, and there's a child of a special need in the home, an HIV positive child, or a child that is an albino, or a child that is deaf or dumb, or a child that can have seeing or whatever, the blind children, or physical disability, cerebral palsy, as long as you explain yourself that you are in a better position to take care of that child, the law allows you to adopt that child, even if you are single. And then you are allowed to adopt a child of the opposite gender, even if you are single, if that child is your relative. We are okay. Then for you to adopt again, you need to have a home. Most people spread rumors there that, oh, you must have your own house. No, you can rent an apartment, you can rent a room somewhere, but as long as it's a conducive environment for a child to live in, because adoption is in the best interest of a child, you are allowed to adopt. Anything else? Financial proof. I know so many people are waiting to hear this because adoption has been said to be for the rich. No, adoption is not for the rich. Adoption is for people who are rich at heart, people who can share the little they have with somebody needy, people who can share their room. They can allow their children to mingle with another child. They can allow a child who is not related to them to feel at home and loved. So adoption, for you to adopt, you don't need to be rich, because if we really needed rich people to adopt, that it was only for the rich, then we didn't have to have the children's home. Because each and every rich person would have taken one or two or three, and then the 6 years would not be there. Look at my son. So it is not a thing for the rich. Anybody can adopt. It's not about money. As long as you can provide the basic needs of a child, you can provide a roof over them, you can take care of them, you can love them unconditionally without expecting anything in return, you can take them to school, even if it is a public school. What is important to a child is not about the big lifestyle. A child needs love, where they can be loved and can be appreciated and can be recognized as who they are and be mentored and nurtured. That is what a child needs. I know so many people who don't even earn 20,000 and have adopted. So it's never about money per se. Okay, so it's about financial proof. And how do you prove? You provide your bank statement, you provide your salary slip, you can provide your business license, you can provide a title deed if you have. There are people who are not working, they are farmers, they can prove that I have a land I'm tilling, I harvest every season, I have fruits in the shamba, I have vegetables in the shamba, niko na kangombe, niko na kambuzi, niko na kakondoo kangu. You will say, this is what I have, and out of this we feed. Where do you take the money every time you get them? They are in the M-Pesa. Nikilipwa maziwa inaingia kwa M-Pesa, nikilipwa sukuma inaingia kwa M-Pesa. Tutakuitisha M-Pesa statement yako, bring the M-Pesa statement, and they will come home and see the farm, and they see how you work at the farm, and they will see where you stay, and they give you a child. It is not about how rich you are in the bank. You have a logbook, it's okay. You have anything that show that there is money coming in and there is ability to take care of another child. That is what the social workers are looking for. You have a house, yes. You are fine, yes. You are physically fit, yes. You are of sound mind, yes. So you go to provide the proof just to understand you better, that you are not after doing something sinister with the child. So that is why they will look for the proofs, the bank statement, the salary slips, the SACCO slips, anything that shows that you are living a honorable life, a decent life, and you can afford to take care of a child. Only that. And then another thing, medical report. You will need your medical report. Why medical report? Because we want to know that the child is coming to stay with somebody who is physically, mentally, psychologically fit to take care of the child. Adopted children have gone through a lot in the CCIs. They have gone through traumatic experience. Adoption is trauma. We will talk about that another day if you invite me. Adoption is about trauma because books say that any child that has bonded with the mother in the tummy, even if they are given out for adoption in a decent way, that separation between mother and child make the child go through a lot of trauma, and they already know that something has left me. Hello? So that's why we need people who are emotionally stable, psychologically stable, financially okay. Yani, you can manage your finances, you can run your errands, you can do your things, and you are just a decent person living a moderate lifestyle. It's okay. So let's talk about the emotional part of adoption as a requirement. Okay, we're talking about the medical report, yes. And somebody would ask me, HIV report is needed, attached in the form that will be given by the agency, and the urine test. Why the HIV report? Because we just want to know you. We want to know your medical history. And there's a form that you will take to the doctor that will sign and fill, just to give a brief history of who you are, to understand that the child is coming to a healthy parent. And it does not mean that if you are HIV positive, you cannot adopt. You can adopt. Anybody can adopt. But as long as you are adhering to your medication and everything is okay, and you are able and you are strong to take care of a child, that's okay. And the reason why we're looking into this is because these children have gone through so much, and therefore they need people who are stable. I am coming back to explain that if you are adopting for one reason, that you are not able to have your biological children, yes, people adopt because for one reason or another, they are not able to have. Adoption is an option, yes. And if you are adopting for that reason, and we know how people who are suffering from infertility have gone through a lot of stigma, a lot of discrimination, a lot of medical tests, and medication, and they have lost a lot of money trying to look for ways on how they can be parents. So those people, normally they have suffered emotionally. I would advise you to seek counseling, seek therapy, and heal from your loss, because an adopted child is coming needy. You should not adopt because you want the child to save you or to cover the vacuum, the desire to have your own. It is okay to adopt. And this child is coming needy, so we should not expect them to come and fulfill our desires more than giving them the need, the love, the support that they require. Expecting a wounded child to come and fulfill your void and the need to be a mother is too much responsibility on an innocent child. So adoption is in the best interest of a child first. And as you give the best interest of a child forefront, and you support that child and just give the child the best, the transformation you see in that child will bring the fulfillment that will fill the void of motherhood in you, just like it happened to me. I was so disappointed with adoption at initial stages, but when I adopted and I saw the transformation in my child, that thing fulfilled me. And like you, I forgot that I was single and I needed my biological children, and I am content with whatever I have now. So that is it, the requirements for adoption. Now let's come to who can be adopted. We have discussed who can adopt. Now, who can be adopted? There are two categories of people that can be adopted. A child that has been offered by their parents for adoption. A child that is called mother offer. A mother offer is the legal process of making adoption arrangement for your biological child to be adopted by somebody else who can be your relative or not. So mothers in distress, mothers who are not able to have their children for one reason or another. There are people out here who are mentally disturbed. They are not normal mentally. There are people out here who've been raped. There are people out here who have incest relationship and they have children, and then their customs and traditions are not allowing them to raise those children in their families. Instead of killing those children, they should be given another chance because the mistake is not theirs. So those children are available for adoption, and their mothers are allowed to offer them for adoption. There are children also who have been neglected by their biological parents. So you have a brother or a sister at home who have neglected their parental responsibility. They don't want to know what their children are going through. They don't want to care for those children. If you have proof that you've been the sole breadwinner, the person taking care of the child, for that child, the child is under your care, you can claim foster care or go for legal guardianship, or even adopt that child if you want that child to be a beneficiary of your maybe place of work benefits like medical cover and anything else that your children qualify to get, to enjoy. So you are allowed, and you cannot just offer your child for adoption because you are lazy and you are not able to take care of your child. Laziness, poverty, and a lack of job is not a reason enough to give a child for adoption. Adoption is the last option. What do I mean? That a mother is only allowed to offer their children for adoption when all options have been looked into. Yani, I can only adopt another person's child. If all options have been looked into, can the mother take care of the child? No, the mother is mentally ill. Can there be a relative who can take care of this child? If the relative is willing, the better. Because the government is not even trying to deny a child and take a child from their lineage. The government wants the children to grow in their families if possible. So that is why the first option is given to the immediate relatives. And that is why the other option of children that are abandoned, the government has 1 full year to do a search for the biological parents or the relatives to see if somebody will come up and say, my child got lost, and if my child can be found, I would be willing to take care of that child. So if a child is abandoned, that child will stay in a children's home for 1 full year. It used to be 6 months. Sorry, let me talk to my children. They're making noise here. Timo, I'm in a meeting. I'm in a meeting. I'm in a meeting. Yes. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Okay. One, initially it used to be 6 months. A child stays in a CCI for 6 months to do search and investigations to see if the biological parents can be traced or the relatives can be traced. So through the Children's Act for 2022 last year, it has been extended to 1 year. So this 1 year, the child is staying because the government is doing a search of the biological parents or relatives willing to take care of this child. So that mtu asiende akisema nilipokonywa mtoto wangu akapewa mama fulani. You see cases in court where people are claiming my child got lost and so was found with my child. So we are trying to avoid that. We're trying to make sure that a child who is declared free for adoption is adopted because there is no other option. And instead of that child staying in a CCI, which is not a good environment for a child, that child would rather stay with somebody else who is willing to take care of that child. So that is also allowed. Mother offer and abandonment are only the reasons why a child are given out for adoption, and neglect amongst family members. Yes, I have explained that. Those are the people that can be adopted. A child who can be adopted should be 6 weeks old and above. 6 weeks old for a child that the mother is giving out for adoption. Because you see, when I'm giving out my child for adoption today, I give birth and hand over that child to an adoption agency. And then I have to sign my consent forms, and I have to give all the documents and the clinic materials for that child. So that child in the next 6 weeks is going to be declared free for adoption. Immediately I sign the second consent. What do I mean by the second consent? Normally, the agency will not just take a child from you. They assume that probably you are stressed or you are going through frustrations, and therefore you will given 6 weeks to reconsider and think. If you can change your mind that you want to raise your child, then you are allowed. But after 6 weeks, then you go and sign the final consent. Then that child documents will be taken to adoption committee, and then the child will be declared free for adoption and can be matched by a willing parent who has been assessed and declared and approved to adopt. So that child can be given after 6 weeks. I took my second-born child when he was 2 months, 2 weeks. Just after, slightly after the 6 weeks, okay? So he was still very tiny young baby. And my daughter came home at 5 months. Because both of them, now you understand, were mother offers. Otherwise, if you are adopting a child that has been abandoned by their parents anywhere, that child ought to be 1 year and above before they are declared free for adoption. That is who can be adopted. Now we are going to step by step of adoption. Where does adoption start? Adoption does not start from a legal office. Adoption does not start from a lawyer. Adoption does not start from a children's home. Adoption does not start from anybody, a mother wanting to give out the child for adoption. A legal adoption starts from a licensed, registered adoption society. We have 6. We have Bakna Adoption Society. We have Little Angels Network. We have Thomas Bernardo's. We have Kenyans for Kenyans Peace Initiative. We have Change Trust. We have which one again? I said 6. We have Child Welfare Society of Kenya. Yes, the giant, the Government Adoption Society. The Government Adoption Society is a parastatal like any other parastatal. So you are allowed to use them, but my warning using a government agency is they have so many people, and most people who adopt always ask, how long does adoption process take? If you are the type who is in a hurry and want to know how long the adoption process takes, then avoid the government agency like plague, because they have over 1,000 people waiting, and it is free of charge. But as you know, with the government things, free is never that free. It takes you long, it is painful, it is a lot of bureaucracy, but we're praying that things will change. So there is Child Welfare Society of Kenya. Otherwise, these other ones are private adoption agencies. They charge what is called facilitation fee. When I was adopting, it was only 12,500. I said adoption is not about money. 12,500. Now it is 15,000 to 20,000. Why? Because when COVID happened, the administration of the agencies changed and the way they handle people changed. So you can, it takes some time. They take people little by little. How they handle people has changed, and now it is a bit expensive. So they increased their facilitation fee from 15,000, from 12,500 to 15, with others, and to 20. The most expensive one is charging 20, but it is between 15,000 and 20,000. Again, this money is paid in installments. So when you want to adopt, what do? I would always advise people to search their hearts. Adoption is not for everybody, and that is okay. It is not for everybody. Na hata kama hauna mtoto, be careful with those people who tell you, si uende ukanunue, si uadopt, si uende ukachukue mtoto kwa children's home uadopt. What do you feel in your heart? Do you have a room for a child? Do you feel you can take care of a child that is not your own? Because adoption is permanent. It cannot be revoked. Na hakuna siku utasema, nimechoka, naregesha mtoto. The moment the court order is granted and adoption is granted, you cannot say, huyu mtoto si wangu. Parental rights and responsibilities are transferred to you. You even have a birth certificate in your name. So you can never change and say, simtaki huyu mtoto kwa sababu sasa nimesinywa, nimechoka, nimefutwa kazi, bwana ameniacha. No, it will be handled like any other family issue if you have any issue with an adopted child. So visit an adoption agency, search your heart first. If you are adopting because you've gone through a lot of infertility treatments, heal, seek therapy, pray over the idea. If you get a conviction that this is what I want to do, then go to adoption agencies that I've mentioned and put your request. And then they will take you through what is called initial interview. Initial interview is what I'm doing now, taking you through the legal process of adoption, what you should expect, how long it will take, the financial implication, the requirements, and any question that you would want to know, they will answer. When you go through the initial interview, they give you a form. Go and gather that form. It depends on you. The faster you gather it, the better. So I always tell people, seek information on adoption, because information on adoption is very, very scarce. Now we have Adoption is Beautiful Kenya Facebook page, where I have put all the information that you require on adoption in Kenya. So take your time and read, Google about adoption, search groups of adoption, foreign and local, and just books about adoption and the implication that comes with adoption, the emotional roller coaster that comes with it. So just prepare yourself psychologically, even as you pray. So when you've gone through that, fill your form, return the form, attach the documents. What you need to touch, the financial proof is going to be touched there. The medical report you're going to attach. You will need a photograph, a full photograph of the applicants. The marital certificate, marriage certificate is going to be attached. You know, everything that I mentioned as the requirements, certificate of good conduct, attach them, take them back to the agency. The faster you do that, the better. I know also people who go to the agency interview, then they take another 1 year to jadiliana bibi na bwana. A husband is willing, the wife is not willing, depending on who is interested in adopting. Then 2 steps ahead, 2 steps behind. So as a couple, if you are adopting, initiate adoption talks now, before you even go to agency, so that when you go there, you're going there to speak one voice. Even if you have children who are 14 years and above, their consent is required. So also engage them and encourage your children, talk with your children. Like when I was doing my second adoption, I was doing it because I was doing it in memory of the guy who took me to school, my brother. He had just, he died. And then I was doing a campaign for the boy child, watoto vijana wakuja nyumbani. So I said, let me adopt a boy to show people that you can bring boys home. Funny enough, Kenyans adopt baby girls more than the boys. So the men who are listening to me, kazi kwenu, bring these boys home. Bring these boys home. The boy child is in the children's home. longer than the girl child. The girl child is going like hotcake. Ata hawako, for your information, you can apply for a baby girl now and get her in 2-3 years to come. It is that serious. The foleni ni ndefu. Because single ladies are adopting left, right, and centers. They are the 80% of the adoptive parents. And you know the law allows them only to adopt children of the same gender. But the boy child, a couple can adopt any gender. So if you go as a couple to adopt, they will encourage you. Can you consider a boy? Because you will not wait longer if you are adopting a boy compared to if you are adopting a girl. Look at my case. When I was adopting my daughter, it took me 8 months to get a girl after approval. When I was adopting my son, I applied in January, March 28th, my son was home. It was that fast. So, chaguo ni lako, but men listening to me, consider bringing the men home. Now, where am I? Where? Okay, you've returned the forms to the agency. The agency will send a social worker to your home. They will call you for another interview. You go to their office, you talk, you are taken for counseling, you are counseled, then they come home and do a home visit study report. Just basically to confirm what you filled in the report. Watakuuliza maswali waone unaishi wapi, where you stay, the nature of the house, is it a single room, is it a double room, is it a maisonette, is it a bungalow, do you have toilets, are they flushed, or the whole toilet, how many bedrooms, kitchen, security, maji inatoka wapi, barabara inakaaje. They will look into all those details. Then they do a report concerning you. And then that report is presented to what is called the adoption committee. Each agency has an adoption committee. The moment you take back your forms to the agency, you'll be expected to pay the money. That money is paid in installment. You are paying 15,000, pay your 10,000, pay your 5,000, pay another 5, pay another 5 before the child come home. It is allowed. So some agencies I know that don't even need that money. They will ask you for the money when you are matched. Ili ndio usiseme, walichukua pesa yangu na wanipi mtoto. Yeah. So it is not about money. It is about the best interest of a child having family. Ndio tukasema #watoto waje nyumbani. That is the agenda of adoption. It's not business. It's not money. So if you are willing to adopt a child, we are willing to work with you and we are willing to support you. So the forms are taken to adoption committee. Adoption committee is a panel of experts. It comprises of psychologists. It is directors of these adoption agencies. There is a doctor amongst them and social workers amongst them. Then your report will be read to them. And then they sit down and look at your documents and look at the report of the social worker and look at every document and your photo. And then they find, okay, this one qualifies. This one doesn't qualify. Kitambo ufike kwa adoption committee, chances of you qualifying are 99%. Disqualification is very minimal, very few people. Most of the time is deferment. Probably there's something haukusema vizuri, na ikifika kwa committee, somebody has raised a question and they want you to clarify. So they're saying, no, ile nyumba tulienda, tukaona, fine, anasema akona mtoto mmoja, na nyumba yake ni single room, na ni kadogo sana, haitoshi, anasema nataka watoto wawili. Watoto wawili, tukiwampatia, wataishi vipi, watatoshaje? So they will say, let us defer her, atafute a better place to stay. Or if the place is not secure, let us defer her, a change, atafute mahali secure to stay. Maybe the water is not right, or the place is not conducive environment for the child, one reason or another. Or even the marital issues between a husband and a wife. Mwingine anataka, mwingine hataki, and then these things are always coming out. When you are being interviewed, the two of you, inajulikana, mwingine anabuza maswali, mwingine haeleweki, mwingine anataka, you are in for it, mwingine hayuko, watasema, okay, we are giving you time to think about this thing. You qualify, yes, but emotionally, Mr. So-and-so is not ready, or Madam So-and-so is not ready. Can you go and rethink about this thing? And when you are ready, come back. We even recommend counseling. So that's what's happening for adoption. Once they do that, and you are approved, now you wait. And this is where the challenge of adoption is coming in, because you are waiting for a child that is somebody else's child that we pray that should be taken care of by their parents. But should they not be in a position to take care of the child, then this child should be declared free for adoption and given to somebody waiting to adopt the child. So most people are always impatient because they think, watoto wako wengi kwa children's home, kwa nini mimi nimewekwa hapa ningoje? Watoto wako wengi wanateseka. You go to this children's home, nakuta watoto wanateseka kweli. So you're saying, haya, why should I wait for 1 year for a child to adopt? And there are so many children's home outside here. Now listen, my dear. All these children's home you see out here, they are not licensed to do adoption, all of them. Very few are licensed to do adoption, number one. Number two, most children's home in Kenya, more than half, are operating illegally. They are operating illegally. They are not in the records of anybody. They are just children's home that are after donor fund and after support they are getting from other people. So they are not registered, and therefore they cannot declare children that they are given to be adopted because nobody knows them. But it is a problem. The government knows they are there, lakini hawezi kuzifunga pia hivyo, but the government now is giving them 10-year plan to close them. From last year, it's 1 year is gone. Now 9 years, there shall be no more children's home in Kenya, kulingana na the Children's Act. So these homes, and even those ones that are licensed to do adoption, they have so many children that their parents are known, or that were just abandoned by their parents for one reason or another. Mama yuko jela, ama the families are displaced, hawaelewani vizuri, so bibi yuko kando, bwana yuko kando, watoto wametawanyika, or somebody is sick, or somebody need just support for some time because financially maybe akili yake imeruka or something, anything that makes them not be the best parent to their children. Some of them have even molested their own children. So those children are in a home and they cannot be declared free for adoption because they are children that their parents are known somewhere. The only child that is supposed to be declared free for adoption ni wale wawili nimesema, who are given out by their parents and who are abandoned, and the government has done their research na hakuna mzazi ametokolezea after 1 year that the mtoto wao walipotea na huyo mtoto ni wao. And by the way, there is a time these children are gazetted in the newspapers just to see if a parent is coming before they are declared free for adoption. Okay, so unangoja yule mtoto. They are not many, they are few. Children free for adoption in the homes are fewer than the number of children in the homes. And again, we are praying because the best interest of a child is that a child may be raised by their biological parents. Na kuambia hivi ili ndio usiwe na pupa, na usiwe na pressure ya kungoja na kuvunjika moyo, thinking that there are so many children. Yes, there are children that but there's another option that I will give you of foster care and legal guardianship. But now I am dealing with adoption. Children that are free for adoption, which is permanent. Once you are given that child ni wako, na hakuna mtu anamdai, na unamchukua kama wako, na birth certificate kwa jina lako, na jina imebadilika, ukitaka kumbadilisha jina, ukitaka kufanya chochote kama vile ungefanya na wako, you are free to do. Like my children are legally adopted, birth certificate in my name, passports in my name, nobody can claim them and can take them away from me now. Okay. Now you wait for that child. When you get that child, can be 1 month, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, months and years. It is possible to wait, but it is worth the wait. I'm telling you, it is worth the wait, worth every effort. So this is where now the emotional roller coaster is coming in. You are going to be like a pregnant woman. Leo umeamka vizuri, kesho umeamka vibaya, leo unataka kuendelea na safari, unataka kuvunjika moyo wache, watu wanakuuliza mtoto anakuja lini, kesho umeamka na mood swing unatapika. Adoption is like pregnancy. Utakuja na mood swings, utakuwa mgonjwa, utapiga simu kwa Grace ukaseme mimi sitaki hii. Mbona hawa watu washiki simu yangu? Mbona hawaniambii ukweli? Mimi nimengoja mtoto sioni. Mbona mtoto wangu hakuji? Niliota mtoto wangu, nilipokonywa mtoto, niko na majina. Hata nilimwambia mamangu mtoto anakuja. Those are the kind of conversations I deal with from adoptive parents every other day. So I will talk to you and tell you, don't worry, it is normal. Umeamka umekuwa mgonjwa, una mimba. Umekuwa mgonjwa, hataka kwenda hospitali. It is happening with adoptive parents. If they tell you, the next day you don't want it. Mimi staki. I don't think I can love a child. I don't think I can go for it. Yani utakuwa juu chini, emotional emotional instability, you are allowed to seek therapy, you are allowed to talk to adoptive parents, you are allowed to rant to me, to anybody else. I can give you somebody to work with you. It is allowed. Then the joy comes home when the baby umepata ile simu. Hi, Eliud, tunakupigia simu kutoka New Life Children's Home. Tumepata file yako kutoka Little Angels Network na tuko na matching yako, tumepata mtoto. Tunaomba uje na mke wako tarehe fulani saa fulani ukuje uone mtoto. Unakimbia kwa Grace. Is it happening? They have called me. What do I need to do? What do I need? Do I need to go? Can I postpone? Can I wait? Can I take time? Can I think about it? I'm not having a time to go. Na mwingine naenda saa hii, nikuje kesho. People are different depending on how emotionally stable you are. Wengine wanataka kucancel, wengine wanataka kuenda kesho, wengine wananipigia simu, wengine wanalia, wengine wamefurahi. Everybody. There's throw parties, wengine wanalia, wanataka kukata, hastaki, I wasn't ready, ngoja niulize mamangu, ngoja namwambia nenda kaone mtoto, it costs you nothing. Just pray over it, relax, go see the child. So you go to the children's home, you are taken through the life history of the child, the nurse is giving you the medical history, you are allowed to ask questions, you are allowed to see the child. Ukimpenda mtoto, unasema nimempenda. Unauliza unakuja lini kuanza bonding, naambia jo siku fulani, naenda kuomba ruhusa. Hivyo. If you say I am not comfortable with this child, nobody forces a child on you, because this is again a permanent decision, cannot be revoked, na itakukost. So we're not forcing any child on you. You are not comfortable with a child, fine. You want the child, fine. You are not ready, fine. It's upon you. So lakini ukasema you're not comfortable with the child for reasons that are not genuine, or for not being ready because you want to change your mind, or you are not sure of yourself, then be ready to wait longer. Or children in a home, they don't look as beautiful as my children look on my wall. I told you the 5 kilos, 5 months. Don't go there expecting a 10 kg child at 5 months. You will find a 1-year-old child that cannot walk, that cannot scroll. They are emaciated, they are weak, they have delayed milestone. So you meet a child 1 year in a home, looks like a 6-month-old child. Those are the kind of conversations I deal with on a daily basis. Mzazi ameenda children's home, amepata mtoto anakaa vibaya. Anakuja kwangu anasema, Mama Angel, mimi kama mtoto anakaa hivi staki, angalia vile anakaa. Angalia vile anakaa. Akinionyesha picha ya mtoto wake looks better than mine. Na mimi nampatia ile yangu ya 5 kilos 5 months. Anasema, haya, Minji alikuwa anakaa hivi akiwa mtoto. Namwambia, yes, the girl we seeing on Facebook. Yes, what happened? 2 months down the line, she added 2 kilos. And she's been adding kilos every other month. And she's been blossoming. And she's pretty. And she's full of joy and full of life. And they are making me so happy. The conversations you see on Facebook, this did not come overnight. Then they say, okay, wacha nienda nikachukue. Mwingine atasema, bwanangu amekataa, amesema huyu mtoto anakaa vibaya sana. Mwingine anasema hafanani na sisi. The children of God, how do you expect a child not biologically related with you to look like you? Sini Mungu tu anamachisha. Ati mbona wako wanafanana na wewe, huyu hafanani na sisi. Hakufanana na mimi the first day. Hakufanana na mimi the first day. No, she did not look like me. She looked ugly. People told me, usimchukue, utaenda naye wapi? Anakaaje, look vile anatisha. Usimchukue, ni aibu. Sasa unakaa na mtoto anakaaje, usimchukue. And then nowadays, look at her. Is she so beautiful? So it doesn't come instantly. Kubadilika na kufanana comes with time. Hello? Sawa. Ukikuja kwangu nitakupatia advice inatakikana, but the decision you make your own. So that you don't say, I forced you. You take the baby come home. Wewe tutakusaidia. Tutakupatia mawaidha. We have a WhatsApp group for parents who have adopted, who have been approved to adopt. Unaingia pale, utasikia stories za watu, wengine wamengoja sana, wengine wamepata, wengine hawajapata. Tutaencourageana, tuna mkutano zetu kama ile tunao 17th of June. We will be discussing the legal process of adoption and encouraging you and talking to you one-on-one with a legal expert who are handling these issues on a daily basis. You have all the opportunity to ask your personalized questions that you cannot ask on social media, or you cannot ask watu wakisikia. Kuna mwingine anajua kuna wasiwasi. Na je, mtoto akinigeuka, akikuwa mkubwa, nitafanya nini? Come and ask a lawyer. Okay. Umepewa mtoto, umeenda na mtoto nyumbani. The first month, 3 months, inaitwa foster care period. These 3 months, the social worker is coming home to see the child, or you are going to the adoption agency to take the child, waone vile mtoto ana bond na vile mtoto yuko. Once you've been told the child is ready for placement, na umeenda kwa children's home, you are given 3 to 5 days to bond with the child in the home. Every day you'll be going to the home to play with the child, to bond with the child, to feed the child, to wash the child, to massage the child, to dress the child, play. Unarudi nyumbani. Ili ukitoka na mtoto pale, at least amekuona, amekuzoea. Then the 3 months at home, they call foster care period. Yeah, adoption. This foster care period ni trial and error. You're bonding with the child. You're feeding the child kama kwako nyumbani, umemtengezea mahali pa kulala, anaishi kama vile unavyotaka, you badilisha everything you want. The child is not legally yours, but at least ni wako sasa ako nyumbani, roho yako inatulia, wasiwasi kidogo iko. So this child is settling in. The agency is taking record of the settling in. You are also taking information to the agency. And you are allowed to talk, you are allowed to consult, you are allowed to take the child to the doctor and explain everything and do a second medical opinion when you are bonding with the child in the home. If for one reason or another, you are not comfortable with the child when you've been matched with the child, you can say no. Because there are children in a home that are having conditions that are not known or known, but for one reason or another, you are allowed to go to the next, to take a medical checkup and then do a second medical opinion. And then the doctor will tell you, huyu mtoto yuko HIV negative, huyu mtoto yuko hivi, maybe ako na sickle cell, or ako anemic, or ako hivi, or ako na flu, or ako na what. Can you handle this? If you agree you can handle, then take the child home. At home, the 3 months is foster, check up with the agency, unarudi nyumbani, ukimalizana na hizo 3 months, then you do the legal process of adoption. Now, this is now where you are going to the court now. Again, I said adoption is not all about money. You can hire a lawyer, or you can do what is called self-representation, which I can't explain here now because there is no time. I'm rushing. So self-representation is where you go to court alone as Grace. We will guide you. And if you come on 17th, kuna wazazi ambao wamepitia your self-representation, and they will explain this to you. And if you choose to adopt and you join the WhatsApp group for the parents, then kuna wazazi pia ambao wamefanya self-representation, they will guide you, because it is about networking, how to go to court and represent yourself and go through the legal process of adoption without hiring a lawyer. But you will need a lawyer to stamp your documents and process them for you, but you will do the filing, you book the court dates on your own, and it is doable, and the judges are so friendly. Adoption laws courts are not criminal courts. They are very friendly, watoto wanacheza pale, and that is the joy of the judge, to see the child running up and down. So nobody will criminalize you, nobody will shout at you. So if you choose a lawyer, again, my advice is choose a lawyer that is well conversant with the adoption process, whom you know, aliwakilisha Grace, akawakilisha mtu mwingine, na akawakilisha Sarah, na akawakilisha Jebichi, na akafanya hiyo process na akamaliza vizuri, because we all know that lawyers here, they are another story. We would also recommend the people that we have used from time to time, if you do the process and choose to join the adoption group for the parents, or if you consult me, I would be willing to help on that. So you do the legal process. If you're busy, choose a lawyer. It will cost you how much? Between 60 and 70 and 80. There are also lawyers. Now that rate I'm giving you is the negotiable rates za kina Grace, wale wanajuana na mtu. Wakili wale tunajua, tumewakilisha, ametuwakilisha. So we negotiate rates for parents. They will charge you between 60, 70, hapo. But if you choose to use any lawyer you meet, I know parents who come to me. No, I met a classmate of mine. We were in campus together. He was doing law. Na amesema atanisaidia, kwa hivyo nimempa na mkwambia ni sawa. Because I have advised you, but you've decided to make a decision. Mwingine atakuja sema my family lawyer, I will tell you it's okay. But I will tell you this, choose a lawyer that is well conversant with the adoption process. When I was going through the process, my first process, I was conned 30,000 because I was giving my church friend lawyer who never had any information on adoption and had never done it. I paid my deposit at 30,000, na akatoroka na akakula, na 6 months down the line, she had not filed my papers in court. I had to change to another lawyer. So that is the average cost of a legal fee adoption. Utaenda kotini, umechagua lawyer will write to the agency will give the documents, na akimpa documents he will prepare, he will ask you for more documents that you would want to attach, like the bank statement, the current ones, the current certificate of good conduct, ID copies. If there is any document that the lawyer will need, he will let you know. Now with your documents from the agency, then he will file your adoption in court. Mtoto yuko nyumbani kumbuka, so hivyo there is no pressure. Then you go for the first hearing. First hearing inaitwa appointment of guardian ad litem. Who is a guardian ad litem? A guardian ad litem is a friend to court. This person is the person who is going to walk with you this journey. When you are doing the court process, she's allowed to come home. She's allowed to talk and engage you. She's allowed to see your child. This person you choose and can be a social worker or not, or a friend, but not a relative. Somebody who is going to be truthful and genuine and eventually will write a report to court and say, I am supporting the adoption of baby so-and-so by Grace Wanunda because I visited Grace and I found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the baby is bonding well, the baby yuko hivi, ataeleza. And then after that, the court will send a court order to the children's department through your lawyer to go and call them. You see now, people say, you want to adopt, go to the children's department. You see now where the children's officer is coming in. Huku mwisho tayari uko na mtoto nyumbani. So the children's officer is coming the second hearing. The judge will give a court order through your lawyer. The lawyer will also give you the contact of the children's officer, or you can get them through your friends who have adopted like us. So we will give you the contacts, and then you go to the children's department and you explain to us, you explain yourself, I'm an adoptive parent, I've been sent here by the court, this is the copy of the letter that was sent to you, I'm making a follow-up, you're supposed to come home and do a home visit study report, the children's officer will agree with you, and then atakuja nyumbani siku ile mtaelewana. Again, haustahili kulipa chochote, lakini ukiguzwa na Mungu umlipie fare kuja kwako. Because we all know our government offices, you want things faster, you can facilitate. That is between you and the children's officer. But for me, I will tell you, according to the law, it is free. They are employed to do that work. So, unaweza kupata kuvutana kidogo, ama upate mtu ambaye roho yake Mungu ameingia ndani, na akuje nyumbani haraka na afanye home visit, na afanye report yake, aende file kotini. When that second report has been filed in court, when you go through the adoption process, there is somebody you are supposed to bring in the forms when you are filling, anaitwa legal guardian. Legal guardian is that somebody who, should you die before this child is 18 years, is allowed by the court of law to take care of this child until this child is 18, an adult. So this person, you will bring him in court because you filled the forms and you said so-and-so is my legal guardian. So you will bring this person in court, na atahojiwa. If they are married, a marriage certificate is needed. If they are single, it's okay. Some judges insist they want married people. Some, they don't mind as long as ni mtu anajielewa. So if you go to court na with your legal guardian na amehojiwa na amepatia, anaulizwa tuna judge, wewe ni nani? Mimi ni Grace Wanunda. Umekubali kwamba wewe ni legal guardian wa Jebichi? Yes. Do you know your role? Yes, I know my role, Your Honor. What is your role here? My role, I promise to take care of baby XYZ should Jebichi be incapacitated or in case of her demise. Okay. Judge anaandika ni sawa. Then the judge now will interview me. Grace Wanunda, yes. You are the adoptive applicant, yes. Do you know your responsibility? Yes, I know, Your Honor. What are your responsibilities, nitasema? Are you willing to share with this child one day that he or she was adopted? Yes, Your Honor. When do you intend to do that? Utaeleza anything that the judge would want to ask you. Sometimes they don't even ask you anything. Because me, wangu aliniuliza, mtoto wako anakuita nani? And then my child was roaming about. I shout, Mama! Then my lawyer said, you heard it from the horse's mouth, Your Honor. Just like that. And then the court, the adoption was granted. Simple as such. Adoption court is friendly. So mkienda hawa watu wote kotini, agency pia anaitwa kotini, they should explain why they approved you for adoption and why they declare the child free for adoption. Na ikipatikana hawakuvunja sheria, mtoto alikuwa declared in the right way and the parent is qualified to adopt because the judge know the Children's Act is with them, they have the law in their head also, then this adoption is said to be granted. In very rare occasions, I have seen adoption that is not granted. Maybe one, lakini she appealed and then it was granted again. In very rare occasions, adoption inaweza kufika pahali kotini huko mbele kwa judge ikose kuwa granted. So I'm telling you because roho yako itakuwa inaenda bio na kuhimiza tu kitambo ufike kotini, count it done, relax. Okay, so when adoption is granted, your lawyer is given the judgment, the court order, then they extract them, then they go to Sharia house, and then they apply for adoption certificate. If you do it alone, utafanya hizo peke yako, tutakuongoza. So you apply for adoption certificate, unapewa. I am saying the process, but it is taking some time. So I'm not going to talk about the timing, but you know from this stage, you go to this stage, you get what is called adoption certificate. When you get adoption certificate from there, you go to the registrar of birth, Bishop's house or House Plaza, depending on where your child is coming from. Kama mtoto wako anatoka Kakamega or village kule Nyanza, unaenda House Plaza. Kama anatoka within Nairobi, unaenda Bishop's house. Then you've given a birth certificate. There are documents they will require, na hizo unazo, hizo documents unazo through the process of adoption. So you will attach them. And then you take them there. Then you are given a birth certificate as you wait in your name. My children, na majina zao, ziko kwa birth certificate with me as their parent. But the initial birth certificate is with their parents' name and the document is having their parents' name because they were mother offers. If they were abandoned, that is in their story also, inajulikana. That is up to the adoption birth certificate. Unapata kwa jina lako. There are the two options that I said about bringing children home. The children that you see that are in a home that cannot be adopted, they can be fostered, or you can have a legal guardianship for them. Foster is a temporary arrangement for a maximum of 3 years, where unalea mtoto wa mtu who is known that either the mother is sick or in jail or mentally deterred, or they are having issues as a family and they are not able to take care of their children. So you are allowed to foster those children through the children's department. This one now you don't go to the agency. You go to the sub-county children's department office and you put your request that you want to foster a child. You will be interviewed just like adoption. The requirements are the same like adoption. And then they will come home and do a home study report. And then they will look for a child of your specification or your requirements, and they match you with that child. You are allowed to take that child for 3 years. On a yearly basis, you go back to the children's department to renew if you still want to continue, but can be terminated anytime if the mother is willing to have the child back, or if you, for one reason or another, you feel you cannot continue with the foster program. That one is also allowed through the children's department. Then there's another one that is longer, legal guardianship. Now, this legal guardianship is what I'm advising you for people who have those stubborn relatives that you want to have their children, lakini bado wanataka kusumbua. Unasaidia mtoto, mamake yuko, mzazi wake anajulikana, but they still want to be a headache. So you can take a legal guardianship with custody. This is also done by the children's department. As long as the parents know that mtoto wake analelewa na bradhake ama na shangazi yake, or can also be done for children in a children's home who are most likely going to stay there for long. So you take them so that there should be no interference from the biological parents. But in foster care and in legal guardianship, all the documents of the child remain in their biological parents' name. You don't change name. In adoption, you are allowed to change name. They come with a different name from the home, but you can allow to change name, and that name that you change, they itaingia kwa birth certificate. In legal guardianship, wewe ni mama ama baba mlezi tu. You are taking responsibility of a child with non-parents, but you are not taking the parental, I mean, the child to be yours, the parental rights, no. You are taking responsibilities, but you're not taking the parental rights. So the documents remain in the parent's name, but the responsibility is yours. Also done through the children's court. Now that one is not high court. This one goes to court, the children's court, through the children's department. They will come home and do a home visit report and file in court. Na wewe na mamake mtoto na mzazi wake mtoto mtaenda kotini na kukubali rasmi uchukue mtoto wake ule, na can also be revoked by either party. I think nimejaribu, but sasa tutaongeza some minutes because nimekimbia na time yangu imeisha. I can answer questions.
Yes, Grace, you can. Thank you so much for the information. Yeah. Do you feel like you need to take a breather?
No, I'm okay. With adoption, I can always talk. Because listening for 1.5 hours is no joke.
I think it's okay. If you have more information you feel like you still need to share, it's still okay. You can share. Otherwise, if not, you can go to the questions.
If I take questions, maybe I will answer some of them. And if something comes in my mind, I will explain.
Okay. Okay. So thank you for the information. We have several questions for group. They've been posted here. We have a question from Ngendo. What happens when one has a child on foster, then your partner files for divorce before the adoption process is over, even gets another partner? The kid knows no other family since birth, was legally given to that couple at birth. They have other kids who are now adults. The lady wants to continue being the mother and the legal parent by adoption. What happens? Where can she go for advice and also the process and lawyers?
Where can she go for advice? Bring her to me. I'll work with her, number one. Number two, there is nothing lost there. The child has known this mother as their mother, and then issues happen. They are separating or they are divorcing. The mother needs just to be open to the adoption agency. If you come to me, I'll talk to the adoption agencies on your behalf, the adoption agency you are using on your behalf, and get to know their position. And most of the time, we have done this before. When you go there, just explain that shida imekuweko, nyumba kimeumana, mzee amepata mtu mwingine, now we are heading for divorce. So what should I do? In the best interest of a child, that child cannot be allowed to go through another trauma of separation. Nimeeleweka. Adoption is the best interest of a child. So this child that has known this woman to be the mother for a period of time has bonded, and there is nowhere this child can be taken, not going back to the children's home again. So this mother will be allowed under special circumstance that I have been the mother of this child. The legal process might be delayed, but what will happen? The agency will assess you afresh as a single applicant on special circumstance. And then they will take your documents in conjunction with their first application that you were in the process of adoption with your husband, and your husband is backing off due to personal reasons. So you will carry on with the process as a single applicant on special condition and continue with the adoption, because adoption is in the best interest of a child, and it is not in the best interest of a child to separate a child with the mother that the child knows.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll look for you. Thank you.
Look for me. I love you.
Love you.
Okay, thank you. I think you've answered her question well. She's very excited. Now, another question from Webby. How about a couple, a man from another country married to a Kenyan lady? Are they allowed to adopt?
Yes, by virtue of the woman is a Kenyan, they are allowed to adopt.
Yeah, okay. Then another question from Faith Moura, but I feel like you've answered this discussion.
Can I chip?
What happens when you want to
something?
There's a lady coming online, Jebichi. She's my friend. In fact, I wanted to mention her case, then I stopped.
Okay.
She will answer your question, the second question.
Oh, okay.
Yes. That question that has just been asked. I am married to a foreigner and I have adopted. And I'm adopting and he has adopted my we've done adoption for the first child, we're doing for the second one.
Yeah, she is my friend from Mombasa. So it is answered with evidence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What happens when you want to adopt your relative's children and both parents are alive? One is sick and the other one left, even has another family. That's the dad and the mom is sick.
Visit a registered adoption society with your sick relative and share your story with them, because adoption starts from a registered adoption society. If it is in the best interest of a child, it will be granted.
Okay, thank you. Someone is asking for us to record the sessions and share it with us. The session is recorded and it will be shared on the Padion Foundation Facebook group. Okay, question from Irene Kahuya. At what point do you disclose to the child that she's adopted? Number 2, how do you manage the disputes when the biological child feels more entitled than the adopted child?
At what age do you disclose to the child that the child is adopted? You see my children coming, peeping, because adoption is a normal conversation in my house. We have never kept adoption a secret. So they know parents come to our house 24/7, and the conversations I talk on phone are about adoption. And my daughter is 8 years. We started talking about adoption at 5 years. Stories about adoption should be as early as possible. And when I say as early as possible, is like make adoption, normalize adoption talks. Siwezi ficha, ni kweli, kwani nilifanya dhambi? Hapana. Niliiba mtoto wa mtu? Hapana. Kuna mtu ana claim kuna mtoto wake imepotea mahali? Hapana. Je, whatever I've done, do I need anybody to tell me that I've done something wrong? How I feel? Avae kiatu, anajua vile hiyo kiatu inamfinya. Mimi ndio mzazi, and I am the one who know how fulfilled and how proud I am about myself and about adoption. So nobody will come and tell me anything contrary. So the reason why I told my children early enough is because I wanted to empower them that adoption is normal. Let us normalize adoption. Children of God, it is not a sin to adopt. I have not stolen anybody's child. Na hakuna kitu cha mtu kimepotea mahali. If anything, I am just helping humanity. Hello. So that's why I'm open about adoption. And if you are open about adoption and you own your story and you're not intimidated by what people think about you, then you will be comfortable talking about adoption. So as you talk about adoption, even when the child doesn't know they were adopted, the story about adoption watasikia kila siku, because mimi kipigwa saa hii, Mama Angel, nataka lawyer, tunaongea kuhusu adoption. Nataka agency, tunaongea kuhusu adoption. I have been much, my child is coming on. Then I have these meetings and then they are there all the time. Then the time comes when they will see somebody pregnant, like my daughter saw my legal guardian pregnant, and then she comes and asks me, how did you feel when you had me in your tummy? And I said, no, I did not have you in my tummy. I didn't have you in my tummy. Another mommy had you in her tummy and gave birth to you, but she was not in a position to take care of you for reasons I'm not allowed to share here. So I told her the reasons, age appropriate. And therefore, such a scenario ikifanyika, that person is allowed to place their children for adoption, and you are taken from the hospital to a home, and then from a home, I was praying about a child, and God led me, and I was approved. I went through the process, and I came to the home, and I was given you to be your mother. And I love you, and I am the mother that you know, that loves you, that is responsible for everything you want from a mother. So ask me any questions you want from a mother. Ask me anything you want from a mother. Then it becomes a normal conversation. In my house, we talk adoption anytime. Saa hii tukimaliza hii mkutano, my daughter would want to ask questions. And we've talked so much. And if you follow me on Adoption is Beautiful, I post everything we discuss about my daughter, about adoption with my daughter on that group, just to encourage somebody that you can still disclose and it is okay. What am I trying to say? Normalize adoption talks. Talk about adoption anytime, anywhere with your children, because it's not a sin. Usifanye ionekane kuwa umefanya kitu cha dhambi because you don't want children to hear the word adoption. I know parents who call me, they are stuck, and because they don't want to mention the word adoption, wacha nitoke nje niongee na wewe nikiwa nje. Really? Normalize this thing, mom. You are not a thief. You are a hero. You are working with a child to be the person God ordained them to be. I am proud about adoption and I cannot hide. And that's why I'm empowering my children to know that adoption is normal and we talk about it anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, thank you, Grace. And if you want to read about her story, you can join the Facebook group. Grace openly shares her disclosure story on the group, and it's very encouraging. There's also a second question she's asked about when there are disputes between the biological child and adopted child. Yeah,
yes. I will try that one because I don't have experience, but I say what I would have done if I was in that shoes. When you are adopting, engage your children, teach them on adoption, and more so teach your children about love and sharing. So when you walk with your children through this journey, they will know that they were equally adopted by God into sonship. They will know that God so loved us that he gave his son to adopt us into his family. And therefore, they are not special than the child that is being brought in the family. This child is just like them. And then treat these children equally. Involve them from the word go before the child came, like my daughter. I involved her when the brother was to come. We discussed and we even settled on names. And when we were going for bonding, we went together. And when we brought the child home, we were together. And she knows, by the way, she knows, my son doesn't know, he's 5 years, he still doesn't know that he was adopted. But my daughter knows that she's adopted and knows that the brother was adopted, and even remember how we went to the home with her. And she has never felt more special than the other. But she also feels very proud that through her request to have a brother, we brought her brother. So involve your children on this. And if need be, take your children for therapy before and through the adoption. You see, adoption is normal, but not very normal per se, that you can live without therapy. You see the mistake most parents do. We want to raise up adopted children like normal biological children on certain levels. Like now this one, you need to seek therapy, normalize therapy when an adopted child is acting, or when your biological is acting against your adopted child. A therapist will handle that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. There's a question from Timothy, which I think you've answered. What happened when adopting family separates while adoption is still in process? I think you answered it from the previous question. Now his second question is, what if by chance the legally adopted child is stressed by the biological parents and they claim him or her?
You know, how will that one happen? That is my first question. All adoptions in Kenya are closed. What is a closed adoption? Closed adoption is you are adopting a child that the mother does not know you. Even mine that her mother offers, the mother does not know watoto wao walienda wapi. Number one, because all adoption in Kenya are closed. They are closed that you don't know. They don't know who gets to adopt their children. So for the mother offers, the documents are there. For the biological parents, they are there. So I'm given those documents because they are documents that are concerning about the adoption. So just one day, and the reason why I have them is because just one day the child is growing and they develop interest on knowing their roots, identity crisis. And they just want to know what happened. Why did my mother give me for adoption? Can I hear from the horse's mouth? I want to have closure. Then I know naanzia wapi. But now, if you are for miraculously, somebody trace her child, let us say miraculously, because I've never had any genuine parent, I'm a trace mtoto wake akapata. It cannot be revoked. Number one, unless she has proof in court of law that the child was stolen. And how difficult will that one be to prove that the child was stolen? That is a different case. They can, depending on the age of the child, Children's Act, current Children's Act allow them to go back to court and, file a case. And then the judge will sit down and listen to that case. If it is genuine that the child was stolen and the child is big enough to decide, mtoto ataulizwa pia, what do you think about this? Then you will say, the child will say, I want to remain with my adopted parent because the bond is strong. The bond is there. You see, it will take another time to learn to bond with a mother that has never raised you. Children of God, I know because I am a mother and I have these children. I talk with my child about the biological mother, na hata jina nimemwambia, and we've gone to the children's home where she was and she was told the same story, but she does not look like Ana haja sana. You get the point? She simply tells me, I would like to know when I grow up. But that bond, nikitu ataanza build up again. And I also talk, I have a WhatsApp group for adopted persons, grown-ups who are adopted. When I say they just want to know their roots for closure. But it's never for going back because they have a lot of bitterness with these parents that they need to work on and heal. Si rahisi, hata kama unataka kumuona, every adopted child has this imaginary perfect mother in their mind. So most of the time, they just want to know, ilikuwaje, why did you do this? And ukishaambiwa, then you have to work on it again. I got a friend of mine, she logged in and now she's logged out. She told me she was adopted, raised by an adoptive father. And when she got to know her biological dad, she really wanted to know, who is he? Who is he who gave me this DNA? But the moment she knew the man, hakuwa na haja tena. So every time the person wanted to create that relationship, she was already married. She was like, why bother? Why bother me? I just wanted to know you. You did your part. I'm not bitter. I forgave you. I am born again. I'm okay. Then when the dad died, she felt the pain, but she just went to the funeral and that's okay. So I don't know if I'm mutual anipata. It is just fear that people have sold to us that you raise somebody else's child and they will come up. But again, I ask myself, what was the motivation of adoption? Again, every time you think about the biological parent of your child, think about your motivation to adopt. I wanted the best for my children. I wanted them to be whoever God wanted them to be. Nia yangu ilikuwa tu nimsaidie mtoto akuwe awe mtu wa maana. I shall have left a legacy. What angel does with a life after amesoma, amemaliza, amepata kazi is none of my business. For example, my mother is in Siaya. Does she know I'm talking to you about adoption now? Does she care? Does she know I'm meeting in Nairobi, going to teach people and bringing people, sacrificing and putting all my efforts and all my time and all my energy to do what I do to help children get families? Does she care? And she's my biological mother. So that's what I'm saying. Give a child a home. Help this child be a better version of themselves. Whatever they do when they grow up, tenda wema nenda zako. If their mother comes back, na amekuwa mtu mkubwa and they want a relationship, as long as the child does not forget about you. Hey, look at the Esthers and the Moses we have in the Bible. Did we not read about them? Am I helping somebody there? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Grace.
Yes. Yes.
Another question. Question from Lynette and Julia. How about if the spouse is interested? I think Kenyans are living out of the country.
It's a challenge when Kenya is living out of, a Kenyan living out of the country, adopting in Kenya. Legally, by Kenyan laws, you are allowed to adopt because you are a Kenyan. Okay, adoption is for all Kenyans. But when you are living in diaspora, I did a meeting some January for Kenyans living in the diaspora, and we brought lawyers on board trying to look at the Children's Act and see. And then I realized that the Children's Act now categorize Kenyans living abroad as foreigners when it comes to adoption. And foreign adoption is bad. There's a moratorium on foreign adoption. So, tukiangalia kwa mtazamo huo, A Kenyan with dual citizenship living abroad is not allowed to adopt in that angle. But again, there are those who find their ways to come back home. You still have your ID, you still have your documents, you have a home in Kenya, and you can still come and apply with your Kenyan ID. And I spoke to a high court judge because I got so much pissed off. I thought like I would encourage Kenyans living abroad to adopt now that adoption can be done online, blah, 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 blah. But then when we found in the Children's Act that they are treated like foreigners, then foreign adoption is bad, then I sought a second opinion from a high court judge. And she told me, Grace, we're looking at the best interest of a child. When a Kenyan applies for adoption as Kenyan in Kenya, and she can manage to get her papers approved by a registered adoption agency as a Kenyan here, when they are brought before me, I will look at them as Kenyans. And then I'll grant that adoption. So that adoption will pass here. The challenge is here again, that you want to relocate with your child from Kenya to the country where you domicile in. Now, the immigration department of that country have their rules also against adoption in other countries. For example, the US expect you to stay with the child together for 2 years before you apply for a visa to go to the US with the child. Wewe ukikaa Kenya 2 years after adoption, unafanya kazi gani? Next to impossible. Then they also allow you to adopt from the US here. And the immigration department want what is called certificate of conformity. So when you apply as a Kenyan and you adopt as a Kenyan, but you're living in the diaspora, you go to process a passport or a visa for your child to go with you, they will ask you for what is called certificate of conformity. By law, certificate of conformity is only gotten through international adoption. So inafanya sasa hiyo tena haiwezekeki. I don't know how people do it. Somebody told me previously, before this act, she adopted in Kenya, and she was here, and then she went and invited the daughter to go there on a visa. And then when she went there, they changed how it is done. I don't know, but we have a WhatsApp group for foreigners, Kenyan living in diaspora, who are adopting. And then we concluded that in total, you don't necessarily have to come to adopt in Kenya if you are not adopting your relative. You can still adopt wherever you are. And we brought somebody in the US who adopted, a Kenyan in the US who adopted in the US, and she's doing well, and also shared with us our story. So we have a WhatsApp group for them, that are living in the diaspora. If you are listening to me and you want to join that group, I can add you to that group. If you are in diaspora and you want to learn from your fellow Kenyans who are in that group. But it is a challenge at the moment. The next question.
Ngendo wants to join the WhatsApp group for adoptive parents, I think. So are you able to share the details now? Yeah, how can they join?
They will reach out to me. Anybody who, if you are through the adoption process, you have been approved or you have a child, you reach out to me. My number you will be given by your leader, and whoever has my number, you have my number. You can get it through your leaders. If you are an adoptive parent or if you have been approved, reach out to me, and then I will add you into the group.
Yeah. Can Alex share the number on the chat?
Yes.
Alex. Okay, so. Janet is asking, must the guardian ad litem be in court or can they attend the session online?
It depends with the judge. You see, this court process, there is no cut format on how courts are done. Some judges insist you have to go to court physically. Some judges don't mind a Zoom. So it is either way. You do whatever your judge says. Some judges don't insist that the children must be in court. Once umepeleka mtoto mara moja, they are okay. Some judges, you have to go to court with the child mpaka iishe. So do what the judge wants you to do. If they say it's going to be online, it's online. If they say it's going to be physical, go physical, but just be flexible to do what the judge wants you to do.
Okay, thank you. Janet is saying, I skipped hearing the point at which the agency comes to court. They told me that they will be in the lookout for me for another link. I think she wasn't present in court when the agency was coming to court. I don't know what she's trying. Janet, can you ask your question so that it's clear? Okay. Priska asks, is adoption or matching? Oh, okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Janet online, huh? Good evening.
Good evening.
What I meant is that I talked to the agency and they told me that they will be on the lookout for the link, that they don't have to come to the court physically.
Did you give them the date of the court?
Yes, I did. I sent a mail.
That's okay. But also call. Let me tell you, you sent a mail and then call them to remind them a few days to court date. Remind them that the court is on a particular day. If they will be online, it's okay. But you, if you're supposed to go to court, it's okay. Whatever your lawyer says. If it is virtual, or it can be virtual, even you or them. It's okay.
Thank you.
They're allowed to sit virtually.
Thanks.
From Priska, is adoption or matching easier in some towns, e.g. Mombasa, than it is in Nairobi?
No. Matching is central. For example, I am in Mombasa and I got matched from Kakamega. So the agency is central. Agencies are in Nairobi. There is no agency in Mombasa. So they are matching people from Nairobi. The only thing that I know works different is with the Little Angels Network, who have an office in Kisumu. So their Kisumu parents and Western Kenya are matched from Kisumu. So if you are in Western Kenya, in Kisumu, and you want an agency to use, choose Little Angels. It might be faster because they are not restricted to Nairobi area. Otherwise, if you're from Mombasa like me, I was matched from Nairobi. And that is what Mombasa parents are going through. They are matched from Nairobi. So it's not easy. It is just the normal weight. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Someone is asking, ask for me. It's a private message. I got my response. Mine was thrown in a pit at birth. How do I tell him? He's 6 years in 21st June.
You don't have to tell a child a traumatic experience of their background. That's why I said disclosure is age appropriate. So there are things you will never tell your child. They will eventually get to know them when they grow up. But the child just needs to know that they are adopted. And I have got different versions on how to share adoption stories. And that's why I encourage people to join the Adoption is Beautiful page. Hakuna kitu sijashare hapo. And also to encourage coming to these events. When we say we have an event for disclosure, we discuss such things in such events. But I'm saying avoid telling children who are very young traumatic experiences about their past, because it is age appropriate. As much as the child needs to know that they were adopted, they don't need to know now that they were thrown in a pit. That is traumatic experience, and whatever, no matter whatever you do, they can never forgive for that. They will just find it something, adoption not being the best thing. So avoid that. And maybe get in touch with me on a one-on-one at your convenience. Let's talk about disclosure one-on-one.
Okay. The last question, what of Kenyans living outside and have adopted from the country which they live in? can the child be registered as a Kenyan?
Yes, yes. You adopt where you are, and when you come here, we will get you a lawyer to file for you that in court, and then you'll get your Kenyan documents for the child. It is allowed.
Yeah, I think those are all the questions we had today. Thank you so much, Grace, for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking your time to share your hearts and your knowledge to us. This is quite informative.
Mhm.